Welcome to the Plant Trainers Podcast, where we're helping people improve their quality of life through nutrition and fitness. And now, your hosts, nutrition and wellness coaches, international speakers, Adam and Shoshana Chaim.
Hey, I'm Adam Chaim.
And I'm Shoshana Chaim, and we are
Propelled by Plants. Today we bring to you episode 358, How to Become Happy for No Good Reason with Kedarji.
In this episode of the Plant Trainers Podcast, we talk with Kedarji all about how to become happy and achieve real, true happiness. In his company, people learn the daily rituals and methods of the most spiritually powerful, happiest, and healthiest people on the planet. And he really does share some of that with us today. We talk about gratitude, epigenetics, and even meditation. In fact, we have a meditation that we do right here during the podcast. So be prepared for that. And when you're done listening, drop us a note at info@planttrainers.com or find us at Plant Trainers on our Instagram post about this podcast and let us know if you felt an energy shift when that occurred.
Kedarji is a holistic well-being visionary, natural healing scientist, and yoga science meditation master who has a reputation of leading with love. He's the founder of the Bhakta School of Transformation, which offers holistic wellness coaching, plant-based nutrition coaching, and holistic healing practitioner certification. Evidence-based research and holistic well-being alternatives is also offered. In this regard, most notably, Kedarji's work in coaching people in the reversal and healing of diabetes, obesity, and metabolic syndrome. With his ecology of well-being and 4 pillars of total well-being as the foundation, the spiritual power, improved mental state, emotional resilience, and vibrant health, he leads students in an exact science for both wisdom and well-being. He's also the co-producer and host of the Whole Life Transformation Summit, an annual virtual summit conference of experts in the field of holistic healing, well-being, plant-based nutrition, and vibrant health. You'll learn more about that in today's episode. This one is truly transformational. Share it out with those that you love.
Just wanted to pop in here and remind you about our Easy Recipes for Busy Parents e-cookbook, where we help you to really get meals done for a whole week. Make sure that we overlap ingredients so that you don't have to go out buying a crazy amount of ingredients that you're never going to use again. And the recipes are pretty simple and children aren't scared of them when they're trying them out for the first time. So if you want to get that, you could click the link in the show notes or pop over to planttrainers.com/shop and check out our Easy Recipe for Busy Parents cookbook. And now back to the show.
And now for a moment of gratitude.
I'm grateful for the time that I've had to declutter a little bit and let some positive energy come flowing through the house.
I'm grateful for the connections we've been making on our Instagram lives and our TikTok lives lately. We've been going every day at 4 p.m. Eastern, live on both of those platforms. And if you're a listener and you haven't joined us there, please check it out on Instagram or TikTok at Plant Trainers. We'd love to have you and connect with you on those platforms.
Kedarji, thank you so much for joining us on the Plant Trainers Podcast today.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm so happy to be here.
We would love to know if you have a moment of gratitude to share with us.
I do. I give thanks every moment of every day for having optimal health and well-being. And I also give thanks for the privilege of being able to offer the knowledge and experience I have to as many other people as possible.
That's beautiful. And I know that you have helped so many people, and we're looking forward to your insights and how you can help people today and inspire people today as we talk about being happy. I think being happy is something that a lot of people strive for, a lot of people have forgotten about. And there are moments where we are happy, there are moments where we're unhappy, and I think that they all come together to help us grow. What do you think is some of the reasons why people have lost their happiness? Because normally children are quite happy, but adults, can kind of go either way.
Well, let me share with you both from my personal experience and also from the experience that we've had here at the Bhakta School of Transformation, where we worked with students and put them through programs for spirituality and spiritual power. We call these spiritual power. So I'll share from that experience what I've seen. Happiness is actually, in our experience, a spiritual principle. You mentioned children. Children, we can observe at a certain age, are very carefree because they have not yet learned and have not yet adopted so many understandings connected to being satisfied with outcomes. Young kids don't have to think about that. They just play. They're more energetic beings. They're connected more to the fact that we are all energetic beings. And so I think we have found that there's, with adults, there is a confusion between satisfaction and happiness. But those are two different things. Satisfaction is connected to owning or controlling an outcome in some way. An outcome that's pleasing perhaps to the restless mind or the ego idea or fantasies that we have. And we develop expectations around outcomes. And some of those expectations are really huge. And if they're not met, then we're upset or depressed or sarcastic or angry or frustrated. And if those expectations are met or exceeded, then we call that happiness, but it's really just satisfaction. Because in truth, in our experience, happiness to be happiness cannot be dependent upon any situation or circumstance, any person, place, or thing that we may seek to possess on some level. And now when I say this, sometimes people get a little bit frightened. They say, well, I'm married. What are you talking about? What about my marriage? What about building a household? What about the fact that I have kids and, I have a career or I'm employed? The fact is that when we're truly happy, when we recognize it as a spiritual principle that is innate within us, we become better lovers. We become better friends. We become better in every aspect of our lives because we have a strength, an inner strength necessary to meet all of life's challenges with a smile on our face. We experience a greater level of inner peace. What's wrong with those? And so if we look at happiness as a spiritual principle that can be absolutely experienced in a simple way by addressing one thing first, the restless mind. When the mind is made to be quiet, happiness becomes evident, and so evident that we don't even have to consider at that point, why am I so unhappy? When the mind is quiet, and we have methods for making the restless mind quiet, and maybe you'll give me 3 minutes or 4 minutes to demonstrate one. But when the mind is quiet, we automatically tap into this energetic spiritual awareness, consciousness. There are so many names for it. We like to call it a power, the spiritual power, that we tap into this energetically, and the absolute spontaneous experience of that is what we call happiness. I refer to it as indescribable joy. Some people call it bliss. But there is a state to be attained by going beyond the mind, beyond the senses, to the witness to the mind. And the more we do that, the happier we become.
So do you think that people who are super busy and can't find time in their day to slow down and quiet their mind are actually miserable and just chasing achievement and just chasing success and are really not happy inside because they don't even have that time to quiet down?
All the people I've met. No, I say this because I was, at one point, I thought I was going to have a career in business because I wanted to be a multimillionaire. And so I was mentored by two people who started the telecom industry in the U.S. after the divestiture of AT&T. So you can just imagine the magnitude of that, being in the right place at the right time and being the first in the market. This is before Sprint and before MCI. So they made tons of money, and they were grooming me to take over their company at the time. I've met similar beings in the performing arts because I was raised in the performing arts, celebrity stars, Dustin Hoffman, people like this. Now I'm telling you how dated I am. But in any event, with every person whom I've encountered and gotten to know intimately, when the focus is on possessing outcomes, so busy because they want achievement, not slowing down, as you say, that they're temporarily satisfied. And in those moments of being temporarily satisfied, they do believe that they're happy. And they may appear to be happy, but they take consistent dives. There's nothing consistent about their state at all. They're happy, apparently, one moment, not happy the next. And so what that's taught me, and this led me to my spiritual mentor, what that's taught me is that if we hinge our inner state on outcomes, on attaching ourselves to things, people, places, and things outside ourselves that are always ephemeral. They're always changing. A king who resides over a kingdom is eventually defeated by death and time itself, if not by war beforehand, right? A sitting multi-billionaire today eventually is going to pass, and then problems come up with businesses. We've seen this in our own president, Donald Trump, shut down Trump University, right? And before that, he got out of real estate and went into television. So none of these things last. They're ephemeral, but there's an ocean of love within each and every one of us. There's an ocean of patience, of compassion within each and every one of us. If we slow down, if we have the methods to tap into, to harness that power, then yes, we can be happy. So to answer your question, yes, I do believe, and we have observed that looking outside all the time, not taking time to slow down, does lead to unhappiness, and it leads to suffering.
I find this very, very interesting as a concept, this whole satisfaction versus happiness and expectations and outcomes coming from the outside rather than from within. Did you always think this way? Was this something?
No.
So how did you come to this? How did you get started down this path versus any other path that could have come your way?
Two things happened. Because this is Plant Trainers, I want to first talk about health. From the health perspective, I had the great fortune and the great privilege of meeting Giorgio Shawa and Michio Kushi. They are the founders of the macrobiotic movement around the world and certainly here in the U.S. And being mentored in the original, because macrobiotics now is skewed, but the original macrobiotic approach is whole food plant-based. The only difference is that Giorgio Shawa said, don't eat a lot of raw food, eat mostly cooked food. That's the only difference. Otherwise, it's an exact, absolute, pure whole food plant-based approach and lifestyle. And so I was taught in that by Michio Kushi. I went to the Kushi Institute, graduated with a 4-year degree from the Kushi Institute, and in that period of time used that approach, which Michio combined Zen meditation, he combined mantra yoga and chanting with all of these other methods, hands-on healing, and healed myself of very serious chronic health conditions and diseases. Started a practice as a healing practitioner in New York City that was supervised by Michio for several years. However, I had not made the choice to completely transition to plant-based medicine as a lifestyle. Even though I was healing others with it, I had not made that entire choice myself. And so I slid back. Why did I slide back? Because I had a poor mental state and I lacked emotional resilience. And so I gradually gravitated back to standard American diet, as they say, high in animal foods, high in animal proteins, low in carbs, lots of processed food fragments, packaged foods, processed sugars. I graduated back to that, and gradually I got sicker and sicker, to the point where, there's an old saying that sometimes God has to knock you on your back before you look up. And this is what happened to me. One summer, I was suffering fatigue. I was tired. My body was hot. It was very hot outside in New York City. I thought I was just suffering from heat stroke. I was taking baths in cold water with bags of ice. I would get bags of ice, open the bags, dump the ice cubes in the bathtub, jump in for as long as I could, thinking that was going to reverse things, and it didn't. Went to see my doctor, and as it turns out, I had a very severe case of type 2 diabetes. My blood sugar, my fasting blood was 675, right? So now you're probably aware healthy fasting bloods have to be below 99 if you've got a 12 or 14-hour period between a dinner, let's say, and breakfast. Optimal fasting bloods are down in mid-80s, which is where I am today. But I was 675. The nurse checked me in, and she said, my God, man, you're the walking dead. How are you standing on your feet? Make a long story short, I was diagnosed additionally with my liver had stopped functioning. They wanted to transplant my liver. My left kidney had stopped functioning. My medical team met with me. They said, you're really sick. We're going to put you on a fruit cocktail of medications. They started going down this very long list. They said, this is going to be your diet, high in animal proteins and dairy, no fruit for the rest of your life. You'll never be able to eat anything sweet for the rest of your life. And they went on and on. And I said, wait a minute, let's go over this list of medications. And as they were digging down into the list, I said, what about side effects? They said, well, yeah, there are going to be side effects. But don't worry. When you start to get the side effects, we have another medication to treat you with that will counter the side effects of the original meds. And I said, well, what about those side effects? And they said, yeah, but don't worry. We've got your back. We've got medications after medications. I said, look, I'm going home for a day. I'm going to think about it. I'll get back to you tomorrow. And when I went home and meditated on it, I said, you fool. You've been healing people of all kinds of chronic health conditions and diseases with a plant-based lifestyle as the approach for years, and yet you're not applying it fully to your own life. Do that first before you jump into any kind of medical intervention. So I walked away from the team of doctors, healed myself, never had to have a liver transplant, never needed a kidney transplant, healed myself of type 2 diabetes that all these years later, some 35, 40 years, has never reoccurred, and I'm totally well. So that's the first thing that brought me to this place. And the second thing I have to say is that I could not have done the first without attaining a degree of spiritual strength. And that came from my spiritual mentor, an Eastern Indian guru whom I met, who took me under his tutelage, who was very, very practical, by the way, in his utterances that the body is a temple in which we reside, and we have to keep the body healthy and pure. He was incredibly practical in this way, and I take my 4 pillars of total well-being from what he taught me. And so having an improved mental state is everything. We're in this world crisis pandemic today, and it's so important to keep a strong mental state so that we don't acquiesce to fear, which actually is the foundation of stress. And I didn't have that at the time. I needed spiritual methods to improve my mental state. That increased my emotional resilience, because we have to have the ability to, humanity is a beautiful thing. You know, we've been gifted with humanity, with the expression of emotions. This is a gift. This is not something that, when I was in Zen Buddhism, they said, don't express your emotions, squelch your humanity. No, the expression of emotions is a gift as long as we don't become a slave to them. And that's the piece I needed, because I was so emotionally distraught growing up, riding the emotional roller coaster, didn't know how to break through that. There are methods to increase emotional resilience so that we can learn to express our emotions and our humanity fully and enjoy that without becoming slaves to the emotions. That's the other piece that I was missing. So combined, that's why I have this integration of the spiritual power with improved mental state, emotional resilience, and absolutely vibrant health that's plant-based. That combined healed me. I've seen it heal others, and that changed my entire life. It also removed me from the mindset of greed, because I grew up on Wall Street. I worked in a Wall Street brokerage where every day they began to indoctrinate us before the floor opened by saying greed is love. Greed is what you need. And this is how I was raised, which is why I had this taste for becoming a multimillionaire. Greed is an incredibly destructive disease. And if nations are destroyed, it won't be by bombs. It won't be by armies. It will be by the greed of the leadership in power. And I think we're already seeing this in many ways. So I had to address my own greed. And now I don't complain about other people's greed. I just try to reach across to them to help them understand that there's a better way. But I can't complain about them knowing that I had the same disease for so many years, that my spiritual mentor helped me to cure. And so that was a very important component also.
Is the problem is not that somebody would want to be rich or a multimillionaire. The problem is that the emotion that they're feeling that's attached to that creates the problem, right? It's not the big achievements, it's what's propelling you there.
There's no question about this. My spiritual mentor ran 500 centers and ashrams. His foundation was incredibly wealthy. I'm talking about multi-millions of dollars that he generated on his own from the programs that he created. But he kept none of it for himself. He lived very simply. There's nothing wrong with money. The issue is, what is the underlying state of the individual? I think it takes great spiritual strength, as a matter of fact, to really be able to hold that abundance and prosperity in the proper fashion and share it with others. And that's been my observation. We can't blame a piece of paper that has a dollar amount on it. That paper has no agency. We have the agency. We're energetic beings. So it's our mental state, how we view that experience, how we sit with it within ourselves. Do we view money as being our entire life, or do we view it as a tool that can be used and directed in any number of ways, some of which are useful, some of which are not useful? Do we identify our entire being with money, with accomplishment, or do we identify with the fact that we are not that? That's just an expression of who we are, maybe one of many expressions, because there's a difference there.
So how can somebody who's struggling with that mentally find a way to become a little more happy every day? Is there something that they could do, a process they could go through each day? How can we help them get there?
I'm so glad you asked me that question.
There's so much more great information coming your way, but before we get to that, we wanted to share with you and let you know that with Father's Day just a few days away, I wanted to remind everyone that I put together this really short ebook with so many amazing ideas and tips on ways for fathers, for dads to really figure out how to improve their lives and to be able to make time for all they want to do, even if they have a full-time job and a family. And I was inspired to put these tips together and share them with you because it's something that I was able to figure out. And why should you have to figure that out if I already did that for you? So it's a really short ebook, and you could pick that up at planttrainers.com/shop. And even though dads are not the best at sharing their feelings, this book is certainly going to be one to help you get through that. So if you have a father or dad in your life, pick it up for them, and hopefully it helps out.
And now back to the show.
Please follow along with me now. This will take less than 5 minutes. Cool. I'm going to ask viewers, listeners, and yourselves to just gently close your eyes. Just take 3 deep breaths, breathing in as deeply as you can. Exhaling as far as you can go. Breathing in again as deeply as you can. Exhaling as far as you can go. You can just do that one more time at your own pace. And now just breathe normally. Maintain the awareness of your breath. Listen to the sound that your breath makes as you follow along with my voice. Right now, if you have any thoughts in your mind, observe them passively, without any reaction, without any response. What I mean by passively is this. You may be thinking now, oh, okay, he's leading us into a meditation. But I'm hungry and I want pizza. And then you react and you say, oh, but why am I thinking of pizza? I'm supposed to be meditating. That's a reaction. Avoid that. Just observe your thoughts come and go passively, just as if you're lying in a field on your back, looking up at the sky, watching clouds go back. They pass in the sky. Clouds come and go. The sky remains there. Thoughts come and go. Whatever is beyond those thoughts remains there. So just observe your thoughts passively. No reaction, no response. If your mind wanders, bring it back to the sound that your breath is making. And just practice this until you hear my voice again. Very good. So now you can just take a deep breath, breathing in as deeply as you can. Exhaling as far as you can go. And now you can gently open your eyes. So I've got a quick question for you and your listeners and viewers. First of all, do you feel overall better now than before we started the method?
Yes, but I also feel way too mellow to podcast
relaxed.
properly.
Yeah, just feel very relaxed.
Very relaxed,
right now.
yeah.
Good, very relaxed. And would you say that your mind is less busy now than when we started the method?
Probably, yes.
Yes.
Okay. So that was, I cut it short. Usually we do this 2.5 minutes. That was 2 minutes. In 2 minutes, you made your mind. This is a simple method. We call it witness consciousness centering, and we have many of these that we teach. And so this is one of many methods that we offer for making the restless mind quiet so that you can observe what's beyond the mind and beyond the senses, because there is a power there. And that power is imbued with joy. And this is a practice. It doesn't happen all at once. But with practicing methods, just like with anything else that we want to do, you look like you have a very strong body. Do you lift weights?
Yes.
Do you train at all? Right.
Yes.
How'd you know I was talking to you?
Because I looked in that direction. Well, no, I'll ask you too, but all I'm saying is this. When you started lifting for the first time, maybe you were like me, which is, hey, I'm not doing this for an hour. I'm in too much pain. Forget it, right? But you stuck to it because you got to train the muscle. And it takes time to train the muscle, doesn't it? And it takes discipline to train the muscle. However, as we train more and more and more, we begin to love the routine. We begin to become absorbed in the routine. And we begin to then derive joy from it. So this is just like that. It's a different type of training. But what we know as a matter of fact is that the mind is an energy. Whatever you meditate on, you become. The mind loves the places it frequents the most. It's up to us to direct the mind to frequent the places that are more useful. This method that I just taught you, we have been using for 30 plus years. We have our own case studies and many, many clinical trials that show that gradually with practice, people's minds get stronger by meditating in this way. They have more mental clarity, more available mental energy with which to address their daily mundane tasks throughout the day. Makes you sharper. May not appear so. I'm just saying because too mellow now, I'm not going to be able to go finish the podcast. But however, with practice, the mind becomes sharper, calmer. What's wrong with a calmer mind that's sharper at the same time, that allows you to experience some of the innate energetic force of your being that makes you happier? Anything wrong with that? I always ask this question.
No, nothing.
So let me ask you a question about that meditation. If you're supposed to be clearing your mind, if a word comes to you and you're repeating that word over and over again, kind of like a mantra with each breath, is that intuitive to what's going on, or is that coming to you because you need it, or should you literally try to clear the mind completely?
It depends on the mantra, right? All words are mantras. If I repeat inwardly because it comes up spontaneously, I hate my neighbor, that's not going to calm my mind. It is a mantra. All conjoining of letters and syllables are mantras. They all have power. It's just which one, right?
So I had thank you. No matter how many times I tried to let the cloud pass, the thank you just kept coming back. So I just
thank you is a great mantra. That's a great mantra. That's gratitude. Yeah. Gratitude brings us to the doorstep of joy. There's no question about this. And so thank you works for you? Great. We proceed as scientists here, and I would encourage you to do that. So it's not, we have this tendency of getting married to our beliefs, and we shouldn't. Everything we do here at the Bhakta School of Transformation is based on science. So with thank you, does repeating thank you take you to a place of peace? You've got to make that decision by observation. Now, does Om Namah Shivaya, another mantra, happens to be a Chaitanya, a live spiritual mantra, simply means it's been used for centuries to help people calm their restless minds. Is that a better mantra? We don't know until you do it, right? So this is science. So you have thank you. Now maybe I'll try Om Namah Shivaya. Does that take me to a higher place, a calmer place, or not? So this is why we say everything must be applied in the laboratory of our own existence. We have to give that time. As you well know, we can't think, well, if it doesn't work tomorrow, then I'm going to poo-poo it. We have to do it for a period of time to be able to test it. But everything, nothing should be taken at its word. Everything should be tested in the laboratory of our own existence with our witnessing awareness, and then we determine which is better. And then one step beyond that is, okay, now stop doing what's better and do what perhaps is not as useful, and compare the two. Because now you know from your own experience through what we call a risk ratio test, which we tell all of our students to be sure to perform. Now you know which is better. Now it's undeniable, because you can argue with principles, you can argue day and night about opinions and beliefs, even research, but you cannot argue with experience.
Why do you think so many people are hesitant to do these meditations or get into this kind of spirituality? They think it's not for them, or, I don't want to do that because it sounds too woo-woo and that's not my style. What do you think? What do you say to those kind of people?
Well, let me first say this, to address the first part of your comment. At least here in our experience, we don't find that many people are standoffish about it. We find that people are really actually ready to embrace it, at least on some level. But yes, there are other people who are just, they're not interested, or they say, well, this is just a psychobabble. That's the word I get a lot. That's a belief. I encourage people, it's like a throwdown, right? So when we played basketball, and I used to play street ball, right? And some of the NBA guys would come down and play street ball with us. And they would say, hey, change your technique, man. You're pivoting in the wrong way. You're going to tire out. You're never going to be able to go an hour or two in a game. And so some people said, well, this works for me. I just shot a hoop on you, and you're an NBA professional. Don't tell me what to do. However, if we set our beliefs aside, the question is then, and it's only one question, how do you know? How do you know it cannot help you if you haven't at least attempted to apply it? I have brought many people to a greater awareness spiritually by asking them this question, to the point where they began to ask themselves that question. And they said, he's right. Let me try it. Let me see if the methods actually work before I speak against it, is the only intelligent thing to do. Now, I'm spiritually engaged, but I'm also engaged as a holistic well-being practitioner. And there is a portion of the population that comes to us, as you can imagine, who are very worried about approaching me because they see me as a spiritual guru, which I am to many people. And I say, that's fine, but I don't insist that people follow me. Come, have an experience, and then you decide for yourself. But don't proceed based on opinion and belief that has not been tested. That's just not intelligent. So that's what I say to people. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but I always offer that. How do you know? Can you tell me from experience how you know? The answer is always no, I don't know. Well, find out.
I find that very helpful with people of any age, especially with children too, when they say, I don't like that, or I don't want to do that, or I can't do that. Well, how do you know? And then it gets them thinking. And I think it's part of talking to the subconscious as well, and letting the subconscious come forward and kind of say, well, you know what? Maybe that's not so true after all. And of course, if you don't try, you'll never know, right?
Absolutely. And the truth is, we grow up accepting a lot of understandings that have been, so to speak, heaped upon us without ever questioning them. And then we reach a level of maturity where we have to go back and look at, well, are those understandings still useful for the direction in which I'm going today? Because understandings always dictate how we feel in the moment. And how we feel in the moment dictates how we're vibrating in the moment. How we're vibrating in the moment determines who and what situations, circumstances, people that we attract in the moment to ourselves. All of that changes when we change our understandings that we reach for and embrace. And some understandings are no longer useful. So I was raised thinking, for example, because you can see the color of my physical skin, that I will always have an obstacle in life because I'm quote unquote black. My mother was African American. My father was Italian by ethnicity. And now I'm neither of those things. And I know that I'm neither of those things. But growing up, that was the understanding that I was told to embrace, that you're always going to have people against you. You're always going to have difficulty. You're always going to have to be better than people of lighter skin, and you're always going to have to prove yourself because of the color of your skin. And I embrace that understanding. And as a matter of fact, that's not true. That's not true at all.
At Plant Trainers over the last 5 years, we've done a lot of research, a lot of podcasting, interviewed amazing experts, and we talk about genetics a lot and how people think they're predisposed to certain conditions, physical conditions, health conditions because of their genetics. But what we do know is that a lot of our genetics is really based on situation and eating like our parents do and living like our parents do. And although we might be predisposed to some of those conditions, we have the ability to turn our genes on and off. And I think you're making a really great connection there with the way that we think and our values and our underlying thoughts and the thoughts that drive us. And we often have thoughts because we grow up in certain situations, but somebody with the same ethnicity of parents as you could have grown up being told different things with the exact same color skin and would have had a completely different experience.
Absolutely. It comes down to the word is conditioning. And we're all conditioned in one way or another until we're able to break through that and see with our own eyes. And so the analogy you make to epigenetics is completely appropriate and right on point to what I was sharing. And if people can understand, for example, that 3% of the world population that has a weak link in their chains genetically, that they can understand, as I did, and then I've experienced it, that even though you may have weak links in your chains, genetic predispositions, they can be turned off. And you can do that largely with plant-based medicine, that this is an eye-opener for people. And then if we understand that the power of the mind is an energy of consciousness, that the power of the mind is the mother to the body. And so when we know this because we know that stress has been moved way up on the list of underlying causes for chronic health conditions and diseases. The root cause of stress is fear, we have found through our own studies and application. And so by the power of the mind, if we can change our conditioning, which we absolutely can, by choosing better understandings, for example, opens up an entire new existence for us, beyond our expectations even, because our expectations to a certain extent are determined by the understandings that we've grown up with, that we've accepted without questioning.
I love that. So you have something special coming up. It's the Whole Life Transformation Summit, and I want to give you an opportunity to share that with our listeners, because I think after hearing what we've been talking about today, there's going to be a lot of people that are quite interested. So please share what that's all about.
Thank you. It's the Whole Life Transformation Summit at wholelifetransformation.org. And what we've done is we've assembled the best experts in the field of plant-based medicine. These are doctors, yogis, healing practitioners, but also healers in the performing arts, big names, world-renowned names. We brought them all together to help educate people on all of the alternatives they have to increase their well-being and also to attain a state of vibrant health for the long term. And so we've got 16 guest speakers, I believe it is now. It's going to be a wonderful event. It's going to go live June 15th through 19th. That's 5 days. We're producing the summit as a fundraiser for our not-for-profit public charity. The Bhakta School of Transformation is a public charity, all volunteer organization. No one takes any pay. All funds that come in are put back into programs that we use to serve communities on and offline. So it's a fundraiser. We're going to have the option of people being able to buy a whole life transformation kit where they can own all the interviews, plus lots of bonuses, PDF downloads, MP3 downloads, video downloads that they keep for free, discounts on future courses. And so this is going to be a time for people to come together to really begin to become educated in their options. The chief reason we find that people are sick and remain sick and stuck on the medical treadmill, by the way, is because they're just not educated in the alternatives that they have. They don't know. And so the point of this summit is to really help educate people. We're also, by the way, just brief mention, every healing practitioner and doctor on the summit is going to be talking about how to bolster the immune system to prevent from getting COVID-19. And if you get it, how to get rid of it very, very quickly through natural holistic means that have been proved. So that's another very important aspect that I hope your listeners heard, because it's another reason why to come to the summit. And so we're putting everything we have, all of our love behind this. And then the other part is that I will be doing some interviews on my 4 pillars of total well-being: the spiritual power, improved mental state, emotional resilience, and vibrant health, and the methods that we use in our ecology of well-being programs here to integrate all those 4. And the stats behind, the vital statistics behind why they work. So I'll be speaking about that. It's going to be an amazing time. Please come and attend. You can get on for free for 5 days. Lots of other benefits that you'll see. Whole Life Transformation Summit.org.
Is there anywhere else that you want people to reach out to you if they want to connect with you, or should we just direct them to that website?
No, people should go and dig down into the Bhakta School of Transformation website. That's bhaktaschool.org, BHAKTA school.org. Bhakta means devoted, with love and compassion, and in service. That's what that word means. So bhaktaschool.org, go look at the blogs, dig down into the pages from the homepage. We have some wonderful programs. People will be able to learn more about myself and my staff. And so that's another way for people to stay connected, and I encourage everyone to do so.
Perfect. So we'll put those links in the show notes for the show on planttrainers.com, and people can reach out to you and sign up for this summit, because it sounds like a very fascinating event that we'll hopefully be able to check out.
I plan on being there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why not, right?
Yeah. You got 2 people signed up today.
And I'm going to send you reminders.
Please do. Please do.
Good.
I'm so grateful for the time that we spent here today, having those 2 minutes of meditation. I think I'm going to feel a big difference in my day. I normally meditate first thing in the morning and put intention to meditate a second time in the day, and often that intention doesn't come through. So thank you for having me do that today. It's given me a lot to think about, and I think a lot of our listeners as well. Kedarji, thank you so much.
We appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much for having me. It's really a privilege for me to be on your show. Thank you again. And hey, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and you can do that method anywhere, standing, sitting, while you're talking.
Please don't do it while you're driving or riding a bike. For our listeners, when they're back into commute, if they're listening to it then, or if they're out on their bikes or running, save that meditation for after.
Unless it'll be good if you get that stoned, that you have to save it for later. Awesome. Thanks again so much. You're lovely people. Thank you so much.
Thanks for being on the Plant Trainers podcast.
Thank you all so much for listening to this edition of the Plant Trainers podcast. We want to make sure that you subscribe on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, or any other podcasting platform.
We really appreciate the feedback we receive from you. Every time we get a 5-star rating or review on iTunes from one of our fans, it really helps other people find us, just like you did.
Thanks so much to our patrons. To become a patron, visit us at patreon.com/planttrainers. Even supporting us with $1 really makes a difference in the quality of the show.
And don't forget to connect with us on Instagram and Twitter. Our handle is @PlantTrainers. Like Plant Trainers on Facebook, join our newsletter, and check out our website at planttrainers.com for awesome recipes, a list of our services, and of course, our latest podcast.
We encourage you to email your questions to info@planttrainers.com so that we can help you improve your quality of life through nutrition and fitness.
So we hope we've inspired you today. Join us again next time, and have a healthy day. Or is that too corny?
It's a little cheesy.